In this episode of Investors and Operators, I sit down with Tyler Fair, CEO and co-founder of SourceScrub. We are talking about entrepreneurship, the ups, the downs, and the journey that we have been on. Tyler, before we kind of dive into the journey, can we give a snapshot of what is SourceScrub? Where are you guys at now?
Yeah, so we're about 40 employees here in the US, but we have a large offshore research organization of about 600 people at this stage, as well as development resources overseas of about 20 people. There's a lot of offshore kind of theme there to our company, but having not raised any capital, that was sort of a good option for us to do things on a budget basis. And actually, they've worked out really well, probably better than what we could have gotten here in the States.
Can you talk about just the high level of what SourceScrub is, who you serve, and why people use SourceScrub?
So we primarily work with investment professionals and investment bankers who are very concerned about their own pipeline, their own business. They think of it as their own business. They want to be smart in a specific sector. They want to know all the entrepreneurs in the space, such that when it does come time to do a transaction, they're on the radar, either as an advisor or a potential investor. And so they use our platform to give them insights around that private company universe and help them build their own pipelines.
All right, so let's rewind. When did you start SourceScrub with your co-founder, and what is the founding story of this?
So we started it in 2015, got together with a buddy of mine from middle school, sort of prior to launch, and he was the tech, and I was kind of the person that had the pain that I was trying to go solve, thinking that there was a good need out there. And so went to him, we whiteboarded, had multiple sessions, laying out what the platform would ultimately look like. But we really just started investing in our research team, and we always had a focus on very high quality data and a high throughput in scaling that team. If you think about it, the research that we're doing, the data that SourceScrub provides has traditionally been done through the lower ranks of the org chart, be it an analyst or an associate. We're saving hours out of their week, days out of the month, months out of the year, when it comes to helping them do one of their core responsibilities, which is go source and become an industry expert in the markets that they're covering.
So when you're partnering with your buddy from middle school, did he have like a full stack skill set, or what was his
computer science major out of Berkeley, focus in artificial intelligence. So he was everything.
He made a much better decision than I did. When I co-founded TechMaven, I didn't know what a full stack, a half stack, a front end, a back end. I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. And I made every possible mistake you could ever make from a technical perspective. It was ridiculous.
Well, that was, that was big, right? Knowing the problem firsthand, having, come from a firm struggling with that, that data and that research motion. I knew the business, knew the end market, knew the pain, knew how we needed to, build this thing, but I knew nothing about technology. And so really to get the gumption to start something like this, for me, required someone like Prescott who could really take ownership over the technology piece of the business and kind of handle everything else. And ultimately that evolved, and we all, kind of do different things now. But
where were you at in life in 2015 and starting it? How it's difficult? What was kind of going through your head when you were leaving Cerent?
Yeah, good question. I had just gotten married. So
wait, hold on a second. Did you leave after or before you got married?
Left after I got married, had the idea actually on our honeymoon for SourceScrub. And I would just say starting a business at the beginning of a new marriage is one challenge in and of itself. But here we are on the other side with a 4-year-old baby girl and another one on the way.
My wife over the past 4 years, I think that we've learned so much more about each other, and the marriage has actually gotten so much stronger and better because you see completely different sides of someone. We're like, hey, we literally don't know how we're going to pay bills next month. And,
Good to have someone to go through those downs with. I mean, that's the truth, right? There are tons of highs, but the lows are just as low. And there's not really much of being in between, as many entrepreneurs have said, before me. But having someone to go through those with is huge, right?
Do you think that you're better at, or how do you think that you're able to handle those ups and downs? Because now you have the same ups and downs, but they're just in a different stage of the business.
That was where we had so much support from day one, be it, my last firm in Sarant, coming on as the, first customer, but folks in the industry bought into our mission and vision such that when we had a problem, we could just go to them. Think of it as an unofficial customer panel, but these are all people who are now customers today and saw what we were trying to build, leaned in hard, gave us really critical feedback that we needed as a bootstrap company without a ton of resources, right?
Yeah.
To know where to hone in, know where to fix problems, and where to invest to get the most value for this market and our customers.
So what was the MVP like?
Good question. MVP was actually we only had a research team. We had no platform that we have today. And folks were accessing our data, SourceScrub's data, off of my personal Dropbox account. And I kind of had everything organized by industry, but that was interesting times. And then ultimately just making that shift from Dropbox to a website. Really, all it did was replace the Dropbox. You still just go in and you download a list off of our website, and then you take it out to Excel. Now it's all integrated into CRM.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why you would just use SourceScrub's platform to sort of push things where you need it to go and get data in a place to use it.
What was where did you get this startup money? Was it you and Prescott just for the first 12 months coming out of the bank account, or was Sarant say, hey, here's a year-long contract, or here's a month-long contract? I mean, where'd you get the startup money?
Yeah, no, we had customer day one. So, with that, we had money coming in the door, and it was a month-to-month agreement.
Okay.
So we were, they had the option to fire us every month. Thankfully, they never did. But
was it did you have like a contract, or was it, here's an email, go off, here's $5,000, make me more money? Or like, what was it? And I want to say that because I didn't have anything.
Oh no, I was, I was put through the ringer. Obviously, beating up the idea prior to ever launching. But no, it was, hey, this makes a ton of sense. Right at the time, we were doing it internally, like the rest of the industry, and it's like this makes a ton of sense for how we want our go-to-market effort or origination function to evolve over the next 5 years, and so we were perfectly aligned from the start, and it's been valuable for both ends.
How long did it take to go from the idea on your honeymoon to having that first legit MVP to show Sarant?
Yeah, so first conversation was probably 5 months after that, and then we were up and running maybe 7 or 8 months after that. But I would say kind of made the decision mid 2014, and then basically was able to launch, first day of 2015.
So for people who either have an idea that does have a strong technology component, or they would like to do something like that, they might have an idea and they want to execute on it, but they don't know like the technical founder, they don't know the technical piece. What What's some advice that you have to the entrepreneurs out there who want to do a tech-enabled startup or a tech-enabled business idea?
I don't really have any original advice of my own. It's from others, but you look at Tim Ferriss and sort of just taking that MVP concept, and one that always stuck to me was, Groupon was initially just an email that went out, and kind of took that with what we did with just putting things in Excel and up on Dropbox. So I would just say try to find the most fundamental piece of value that you're trying to deliver and go test it out without trying to make it perfect. It's very easy, to see if you can get value from some of it. And having a network helps too, right? To have the right people to bounce ideas off of. And so, hopefully the entrepreneur is going into a market that they know or can be dangerous in, and has the discipline to spend as little money as possible to figure out if there's value here.
It's interesting because, this is making me think how when we were starting Debt Maven, I was not scratching my own itch. I had not felt that personal pain of it's difficult to do a debt financing because I'd never done a single debt deal in my life. And I think that for so many years, I was a square peg in a round hole. And when you're in year 2 or year 3 of that, if you don't have that passion, then life is going to suck. And which is a very different experience than what we have now. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are just like, oh, I want to start a business, as opposed to like a problem oriented or like a solution oriented approach to starting a business. Like, here's a big problem. I know there's got to be a better way to do this, as opposed to let's go find a problem.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is Mark Zuckerberg that can start something in their dorm room, right? And like, it goes to, back to how you think about your career prior to becoming that entrepreneur, and your own boss. But don't look at it as a means to make money. Look at it as a means to learn and to grow and to develop the skill set that you need to then go and accomplish what you want to accomplish in your career. If it's start a company, great. Go get the experience. Go work for really good people, so that you've seen how they operate, and then you can try to model that as best as you possibly can. But working for good people, I can't stress how important that was.
Did you know that you would always go down an entrepreneurial path, or did it kind of?
No. It was really just frustration in the environment that I was trying to succeed in, not having the tools to do it. And I was like, how has somebody not gone and done this yet? Okay, you're up,
Oh yeah. I realize I'm just unemployable. So
Yeah, at this stage that might be true for me. Who knows?
what's like the first big roadblock that you guys hit, and kind of how'd you get through it?
Yeah, that was like 2 months into it, and I was basically working from my mom's house, kind of the garage type story, and my partner was living in the city at the time, and I woke up and early riser, so I get up and I get the Dan Primack report as soon as it comes in, and I noticed there was a company that raised about $5 million from I think it was Google Ventures and Goldman, to effectively, had a very similar mission to what we wanted to do, except they had, 5 million, and at some stage they got to 10 million of raised, and we had none. And so just thinking back on our initial business plan, it's like, hey, we wanted to bootstrap this. Does this change anything? And ultimately at that time, we had seen enough traction with our research team, and it was scaling very well, that we felt we had the winning recipe to go get quality data at a high throughput to keep up with the demand of our market. And we were going to focus on this market without having any distractions, and other use cases, right?
Chief marketing officer coming in.
Chief marketing officer is coming in.
Hey, this can now be a business expense, diapers or whatever. That's the only reason why I brought my kid to ACG. I can write off that stuff. Um,
She's been to a couple. Yeah, absolutely.
we landed from Shanghai and went to ACGLA, and our daughter, I strapped her on like the carrier in the front. I was just walking around ACGLA.
I was at that event. You and I didn't know each other at the time, but I remember that. That was great. That was early on.
Fun times. So what was going through your head when you saw $5 million from Goldman and Google Ventures going into a competitor, and you guys, I assume, did not have $5 million in the bank there?
Yeah, I guess thinking, will my old employer hire me back? Type oh no, moment. But honestly, that's where the partnership is so key, right? Like, I like to think of my co-founder and I as just sort of yin and yang. And so the things that come up as roadblocks and may have concerned me, didn't he wouldn't bat an eye at it. And I think that's just what got us through. It was just a strong partnership. Yeah.
So let's talk about co-founder issues. I've had a fair amount. How have you guys? I mean, you guys knew each other since middle school. What was
middle school? Yeah.
Over the past, was it 5 years now, 6 years or so since you guys have been doing this? Like, what is the co-founder journey that you've been on, and like, how did you navigate? Maybe if you guys were button heads sometimes, or how have you guys just kind of kept together through this journey?
I think just having similar values and knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, um, and having reasonable expectations of one another has led to a good partnership. And I mean, there hasn't been many, if any, battles. And in fact, if my partner is upset with me, I know that I'm usually doing something wrong, and I probably need to change whatever it is that got him upset. But there haven't been many instances of that in 6 years. All around, I just couldn't be happier with the partnership there.
That's awesome.
And the
It's
friendship.
so tough because let's say that somebody has an idea and they're missing a skill set. Like, I didn't have any of the technical side. So I'm like, all right, go find a technical co-founder. Like, in retrospect, unless I actually know someone really strong, that was the dumbest decision I could have done for that business. It's better to, hire, instead of a CTO, like a junior or a mid-level. I hired too high, too fast, too young, too much equity. And it was interesting because, like, I think in retrospect, either find somebody, fork up the money, or find the money to get like an outsourced dev team just to get the MVP, as opposed to getting into a marriage with the co-founder who you just met on founderdate.com.
Yeah, I think that is where networking comes into play, and your diligence prior to going into any new venture. See if you can get the pieces to line up before spending any money whatsoever. And obviously, any entrepreneurial journey generally starts as sort of a side idea, or something that you're thinking about alongside being gainfully employed.
That brings up another good point, though, which is, when did you decide to make the leap, and to what extent were the ducks in order before you did?
Yeah, I mean, first it was the idea, then it was reaching out to my buddy who ultimately became our technical co-founder, and then it was figuring out how I could have stars align so that we didn't need to raise any money, right? And so we thought about that. How do we do this without raising any money? And then ultimately, I was like, well, hey, we're solving the pain point for what I'm doing today. Maybe they would want to be a customer, and that might solve some of our early financing needs. So I had a conversation and have my ducks in a row, and in terms of that, that presentation to Sarant, and it made all the sense in the world for both them to do it as a customer. I mean, there was clear savings, and for us to go give it a shot, given that we had, a customer, we had a technical person to handle the tech, and I knew the problem, and that's kind of all you need to start.
What was the kind of the next chapter? So Sarent done, they're happy, they're growing with you. It's, mid, late 2015, but like, what do you think is the next chapter of the business that you guys had?
So next chapter of the business, we're growing. We are in growth mode at the moment, and I think that for us, we want to be a category leader.
No, I'm sorry, let's rewind, like 2016, 2017. What was like the next chapter after startup? We're going to live to fight another day. We have money in the bank. But like, what does 2016, 2017, 2018 look like?
Set some goals and try to hit them. Add a customer a month. Was kind of all we could do. And then once you added that customer, figure out where you want to invest it. That was kind of 2016 in a nutshell. And then ultimately got to a point where we were around $1 million of revenue in 2017 after 2 years of operating. And at that point, it was go to market and throw fuel on this fire. And so that's when, kind of your management hat has to be put on, and you have to think about where you want to plug people into the business and who those people are going to be. We were fortunate enough to be selling into a very sophisticated end market, where a lot of the people that we brought onto the team sort of found us or knew of a customer that was using us and could ping them, hey, what do you think about this company, SourceScrub? They got an opening, thinking about it type stuff. And we just attracted the right talent. And so at that point, it was about, the idea was taking off, and it was just about trying to hire smart people, get out of their way, to your point of micromanagement, and let them do their jobs that you hire them for, and be very specific about what that is.
What's that balance that maybe you have experienced in the hiring where, in the beginning, it's like, do you have a pulse? Fantastic. Let me tell you about my company. Can you please work with us? Versus hiring people who are truly excellent at that particular function. What stage, and some people grow with the business. They level up as you're going. I'm curious, like how you kind of manage that, and at what point it's like, we need to hire the best people for this, and we can either can't afford it or we're going to find a way to afford this.
I think that early stage, you're trying to find future entrepreneurs. You're trying to find people that have that figure it out mentality. And then beyond that, it's what can you bring to our company in terms of heart, hustle, and industry experience, or domain experience in the function they were coming in to run or build.
So in the beginning, it was like hire for the mentality of, can this person just be autonomous and just figure it out? Like,
yeah,
Swiss Army.
Like you said, you don't have time. You don't have time when you're growing. You got to let people kind of flourish, and hope they work out. Help them work out. And thankfully, I don't think we ever missed on a key hire.
What was kind of the, how do you think that you've grown as a leader and manager over the past 5+ years?
So this is going to come off as intellectually lazy, but I've always tried to make myself as useless as possible. It's kind of what you have to do if you want the company to survive, and so for so long there, I was managing the customer success function, and then at some point I was like, my highest best use is getting out to other origination professionals in the industry that would buy into our mission. And the customers needed to kind of be managed by someone other than me, because my that wasn't my highest best use as I saw it. And so just bringing on someone to own the customer relationship, solve their problems, was huge for us, and provided a ton of bandwidth for me and the sales team, to the point where I could, spend 100% of my time focused on growing the top line or with product.
Was there a point when you kind of shifted most of your time away from sales to more working on the business as opposed to in the business at that function?
So definitely in 2015 and 2016, because there was no one else. And so in 2015, I was doing all the quality assurance on the data that went into the platform. And happy to say all of our customers felt we had really strong data, still do. But that quickly ate up, once we had a handful of customers, that quickly ate up all my time.
Yeah.
Then we hired our first sales rep, and that basically allowed us to fill the top of the pipeline, because I just didn't have time to do that. And so I was able to sort of do research and later stage sales conversations when there was something real.
How do you think about your time in the day and the week? Do you have a particular structure to the week? For example, like Friday's Tyler time. Nobody talk to me because I just need to go deep in my own thoughts and figure out what's the next 3 years look like.
No, man. I think we got a great team here. I'm always open to talking to folks, whether it's weekdays or weekends, whatever's on their mind. But generally, we try to get organized at the beginning of the week. Nice thing in our industry is that a lot of investment committee meetings happen on Monday, and so maybe the phones are a little bit lighter on a Monday. So get organized on a Monday, and then just try to make your numbers that week, so they can make that month.
Yeah, it's time management, I think, is interesting at the earliest stages of a business, because you want to move around everything when like a potential sale is coming in. Like, all right, cancel everything, like move around everything. And when I've had to learn how to still respect like the team's time. For example, like if we have an internal review, like just keep that. Yes, that proposal, yes, that sale is important, but like it's also equally important to respect my team's time.
Very true. Never try to miss a meeting. I mean, I learned very early on at my time in Sarent that 85% of life is showing up.
What's the next chapter look like?
Growth. The team taking the mantle. The team is highly autonomous, and I am basically just in it for their own individual success at the moment, making them leaders. And what I really want for them, for our team, is to have an incredible story to take with them from SourceScrub. Who knows what happens to this business but I want them to be able to point to, at least 3 or 4 things and say, I own that, and we were successful, and here was the story.
What do you think is kind of like sorry, I'm stuck on the entrepreneurial story here. So like, for what do you think is some of the big picture things that you've learned from the past 5 or 6 years about entrepreneurship that people just need to keep in the front of their mind, whether they're in the thick of it on the struggle bus or they're thinking about doing it because they've been working for somebody else for 10 years?
Set attainable goals and chase them until you either meet them or die trying. I think it's hard to think about in terms of years and not months when you're an entrepreneur at the very early stage. But I strongly suggest just thinking about things 6 months at a time, at a maximum when you're starting a company.
Did you have those kind of clear goals in terms of like, if this doesn't happen by this date, then all right, time to go look for something else?
Geez, did I ever put a drop dead date on it? I never did. Just a waste of time thinking about it,
Yeah, my wife did 2 times to me. She said, you have 100 days to raise your first round or you're moving on.
Well, if circumstances were different, maybe she would have said the same thing, right? But
I was dragging it too long, and that's an interesting part about entrepreneurship is like that balance between eternal optimism versus delusion.
Yeah. Well, can't be entirely hard-headed. Part of entrepreneurialism is sort of just wanting to prove people wrong, right? Someone says you can't do it. And so, but someone tells you can't do it. Who is that person? What is their opinion? How is it informed? And how should you weigh it?
What do you think motivates you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I think the origination profession. I mean, if I didn't have this idea, I'd still be in private equity doing, what I loved about private equity, and that was origination. I think just hearing so many CEOs in that role, doing my job, hearing how so many CEOs made it sound easy, was like, well, okay, then I can go and do it. And I think that was just it. I think anyone can do it, right? Just get your ducks in a row.
Man, this has been awesome. I've been doing the Spanish Inquisition of questions here just because the story is super interesting and you have succeeded in the entrepreneurial journey. And it's just been absolutely awesome to kind of dig through this and unpackage the story.
Well, I applaud the persistence and resilience that the founder, Debt Maven, and now 51 Labs, and the progress that you guys have made in becoming a thought leader in this space. It turns a lot of heads and it helps a lot of people. And so keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
And we'll keep partnering, hopefully.
But appreciate it. Have an awesome weekend.